On this episode of Curator's Corner, our first segment, we will highlight Fire Prevention Week and how it originated. In our second segment, we will talk with our PFD historian and his new book about the apparatus used in the Philadelphia Fire Department from 1871 until 2017, from horses to horsepower. So hang on as we all go all hands in service with the history of the Philadelphia Fire Department and the Curator's Corner. Joining me today is Deputy Chief Charles Johnson from the Fire Prevention Division. Thank you, Chief, for joining me. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your career?
Yes, Deputy Chief Charlie Johnson, Philadelphia Fire Department Fire Prevention Division. I have 20 years on the job. I came on Valentine's Day of 2000. Actually happened to be the classmate of the curator. I spent time in Southwest Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, as I went through the ranks of firefighter, lieutenant, captain, battalion chief, and now deputy chief. I'm coming up on my second year in the Fire Prevention Division, and it's such a wealth of information that I'm gaining from being here. I'm actually looking forward to seeing how I can actually expand it into the field upon my return to the field.
Wow, that's great. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about why is Fire Prevention Week the first week of October?
Absolutely. The Fire Prevention Week commemorates the Great Chicago Fire, which was a conflagration that burnt in the city of Chicago during October 8th through 10th in 1871. That fire killed approximately 300 people, destroyed roughly 3.3 square miles of the city, and left more than 100,000 residents homeless. The fire began in the neighborhood southwest of the city. A long period of hot, dry, windy conditions and the wooden construction prevalent in the city led to the conflagration. Just to tell you a little bit more about it, the fire left the south branch of the Chicago River and destroyed much of central Chicago, and then left the main branch of the river, consuming the near north side. On the 40th anniversary, 1911, of the Great Chicago Fire, the Fire Marshals Association of North America, that's the FMANA, the oldest membership section of the National Fire Protection Association, sponsored the first National Fire Prevention Day, deciding to observe the anniversary as a way to keep the public informed about the importance of fire prevention. In May 1919, when the NFPA held its 23rd annual meeting in Ottawa at the invitation of the Dominion Fire Prevention Association, the NFPA and DFPA both passed resolutions urging governments in the United States and Canada to support the campaign for a common fire prevention day. In the United States, the first National Fire Prevention Day proclamation was issued by President Woodrow Wilson in 1920. When President Calvin Coolidge proclaimed the first National Fire Prevention Week on October 4th to the 10th, 1925, he noted that in the previous year, some 15,000 lives were lost to fire in the United States. Calling the loss startling, Coolidge's proclamation stated, "This waste results from the conditions which justify a sense of shame and horror, for the greater part of it could and ought to be prevented. It is highly desirable that every effort be made to form the conditions which have made possible so vast a destruction of a national wealth. Therefore, we celebrate Fire Prevention Week during that first week in October."
Wow, that's a pretty horrific event, and that ended up setting the standard for all big departments across the country.
Yes.
But when did fire prevention actually start here in the Philadelphia Fire Department?
Oh, that was in 1952. So fire prevention started after the city charter changed in 1952 with the appointment of Deputy Commissioner Paul B. Hartenstein in charge of fire prevention and training. After World War II, the destruction from fire that was observed with buildings pushed paid fire departments to develop programs on how to prevent fire.
What was actually done to promote fire prevention to the general public here in the city?
During that time, there was a radio show on WIP and television shows with celebrity guests to help promote the message from firefighters. There was also parades and floats and demonstrations displayed at firehouses and schools.
That was quite a long time ago, 1952. So what is actually done now to curb the gap with our audience and the general public with fire prevention?
I got to tell you, so it's almost like we took a page from what they did in 1952, you know, as those years progressed, bringing us all the way up to 2020. Currently, we have 2 television shows that air on LaSalle TV. We have Freedom from Fire and Curator's Corner. We have a radio show on Word, multiple social media platforms, a nonprofit organization, which is the Philadelphia Fire Department Foundation, fire prevention team members that go out into the community and educate via a variety of venues, fairs, open houses, community meetings, etc. So it's almost as if we taken a page from 1952 and expanded and enhanced that.
Yes, I am.
Now, everybody looks at fire prevention as one big division, but could you break down the different groups that we have that make up fire prevention?
Absolutely. So in fire prevention, you know, we have our very own Fireman's Hall Museum, staffed by yours truly, Curator Brian Anderson. We have an educational team, we have an institutional team, we have 3 community action teams. We did have some downsizing over the past couple of years because we also used to have a high-rise team that will go out and assist the code unit in L&I and make sure they had a fire safety exit plan in place. They had to transition to the code unit. But once again, we still have our educational team, institutional team, and community action teams, as well as the Fireman's Hall Museum staff.
And COVID has affected a lot of things across the world that has happened. How has that impacted fire prevention, and what have you guys done to get out of that?
I have to let you know, so COVID-19, it completely caught us off guard. We was actually in the midst of planning a promotional and award ceremony. That's one of the many things that's performed in fire prevention. When we started getting information about a lot of the venues that we utilized, that we had locked dates set in place, was letting us know due to an abundance of caution, they were going to be temporarily closing. And back then they thought it was only going to be for a few weeks to 2 months. Well, here we are in the final quarter of 2020, and things are still not fully reopened. A lot of changes, completely off guard. So what we found is that we started having to use virtual platforms to do the educating that we used to be able to do in person. We are still learning, still expounding, and still enhancing those platforms. But again, one of the good things that came out of it is now we realize that we'll use this model even when things are completely open, so that we can actually get deeper into the communities that we may not have open invitations to in the future. So from this time forward, we'll probably always have a hybrid model. We'll do the things that we used to do in person, and then we will complement it with these virtual platforms that we've become acclimated to utilizing.
And as you go forward with the virtual platforms, what has the audience been like? I mean, obviously you're able to touch a vast amount of people using these virtual platforms, but the attendance, do you still see the benefit of impacting the audience that you're reaching out to?
Yes, I definitely do. We actually do get feedback. We're actually seeing it in that some of the things that we used to count in our matrices have decreased. We want to give full credit to the virtual platforms, but we're honest with ourselves and we realize it's because a lot of individuals have changed their lifestyles and living habits as well. So we have to take that in consideration. We will actually really be able to evaluate the impact once things are closer to the 100% open phase and people get closer to their normal way of doing things, so that we'll have an accurate matrices to judge it by, to rate it by. But we are having an impact virtually. We are getting positive feedback, and we're seeing things trend in a way that's showing that it's having a positive impact.
For those members that are interested in joining fire prevention, how might one join to become a member of fire prevention?
Oh, to be a full-time staff in fire prevention? Is that what you mean? And the reason why I asked you that question is because all members of the Philadelphia Fire Department are tasked with performing fire prevention, regardless of where you're assigned, where you're stationed. Fire prevention is a part of our mission statement. Usually, once an individual is considered a full paid member, that's after 5 years. We have 5 steps until you get full paid. They have some experience in the field. And they have some knowledge, skills, and abilities that they can bring to the table, and we have a vacancy, then we'll put out a departmental unit note, let members of the department know that we have a vacancy and we're looking for interested individuals. Individuals that apply for that, they'll go through an interview process. We'll find out some of their background, why they believe they'll be a good fit, and then we'll choose them from that. But once again, everyone in the Philadelphia Fire Department is considered part of fire prevention because that's part of our mission. They don't have, a member does not have to wait to get a full-time permanent position or assignment in the fire prevention division to know that he or she is tasked with fire prevention.
Well, and wrapping up, Chief, could you tell us, as we're getting ready to go into Fire Prevention Month, the importance of smoke alarms and or escape plans?
Yeah, so for smoke alarms, what a citizen has to do is just call 311, or they can go on their computer and go to 311, and we'll be able to gain their information from that. We'll be able to get their name, address, telephone number, and then we can set up a time to come out and install. During the restrictions of COVID-19, we weren't actually able to go out and install, but we're working with law and risk management now to see if we're going to be able to start going back and re-implementing our smoke alarm installation program. Also, if you stop by your nearest firehouse, they'll take your information, they'll pass it on to fire prevention. But the primary way of getting on the law to receive a free smoke alarm installation is through 311. Home escape plan, and I heard you ask about it as well. That's one of those things that if someone in the community is interested, anyone from fire prevention or their local firehouse can come out and assist them in doing. But I can just give you a quick overview of a home escape plan. One thing that the citizen wants to do is draw a map of their home, showing all the doors and windows. They should visit each room of their home and make sure they know at least 2 ways out of every room in their home. All windows and doors should open easily, and you should be able to use them to get outside. Make sure your home has smoke alarms. Smoke alarms should be in each sleeping room, outside each sleeping area, and on every level of the home. Now, if the Philadelphia Fire Department was to do the installation of the free smoke alarms, we're only allowed to put 1 per level. But if the homeowner or occupant wants to make their home safe, we're actually encouraging them, based on the NFPA, that's the National Fire Protection Association guidelines, to have not just 1 per level, but 1 in each sleeping room, outside each sleeping room, and on every level. They should push and test the button to make sure each alarm is working, pick a meeting place outside the home, and make sure everyone is aware of the meeting place. Make sure their house number can be seen from the outside of their home. That's the address of their home. And talk to everybody in their family about their plan. Also, get out, stay out, call 911 from the exterior, and allow the Philadelphia Fire Department to come to do the extinguishment. And the last thing we want to let individuals know is once they have this plan in place, they should practice it at least twice a year.
Wow, that is a large wealth of knowledge. Again, thank you for doing this. And remember, people, please stay safe as we go into Fire Prevention Week. Chief, thank you. See you next time.
Thank you, Mr. Curator.
As birthplace to the first volunteer fire companies, Philadelphia is home to one of the nation's premier fire museums. Fireman's Hall Museum displays the city's fire history in addition to promoting fire safety. You can visit Fireman's Hall Museum in Old City at 147 North 2nd Street. Visit firemanshallmuseum.org to learn more, or watch the museum's show, Curator's Corner, on LaSalle TV.
All right, joining me today is our official historian of the Philadelphia Fire Department, Jack Wright, who is also a board member of Fireman's Hall Museum. Jack, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
No problem, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Can you officially go over your title?
I am the official fire department historian for the Philadelphia Fire Department.
And how did you acquire that title?
It was given to me by, well, of course, it wasn't really given to me. There was a lot of work put in behind it, but it was bestowed upon me by Commissioner Ayers back on October 14th of 2007. And, in recognition of all the work that I had put in up until that point. So, I mean, it's been just about 13 years that I've had the title now. So,
how long have you been affiliated with Fireman's Hall Museum?
I joined the museum as a member in 1987. And at that time, I was attending the members' nights and everything, and they had mentioned that they were looking for people to volunteer to help out. So I said, wow, that sounds cool. So it's been 32 years.
What was your inspiration behind collecting fire memorabilia?
I just always been very interested in the fire service, and just fascinated by the whole thing since I was a really young child, and it's just seemed like the natural thing to do to start collecting. I used to cut pictures out of the newspaper and paste them into scrapbooks and everything, and
can you tell us a little bit? A lot of people don't know you had a mentor that broke you in, and was he looked at as a Philadelphia Fire Department historian, Jack Robrecht?
Oh, yeah, Jack Robrecht was my mentor, and Jack was the first person to hold the title of Fire Department historian. And I believe that was bestowed upon him by Commissioner Richmond. That was before I had met him. And but Jack kind of took me under his wing and really taught me a lot, and kind of molded me and pushed me in the right direction. So I look at my work as a continuation of his. We're just adding to it, and hopefully we'll find somebody that I can pass everything on to and keep it going.
Well, hopefully our viewers will be educated on who you are. There's a lot of people in the department that know you, and a lot of the younger people that don't. Tell us a little bit about what you would do on the fire ground and when people would see you.
Well, I used to chase a lot of fires. Used to go to a lot of fires. I mean, and photograph them. And my main focus was, just to publicize the Philadelphia Fire Department. There's a lot of departments in the country that get a lot more press. So I always felt that since it was my hometown team, maybe I should do something to help them, look good in the eyes of the public outside, in the eyes of the public. And, so I did that. And when I wasn't chasing fires, I was photographing the apparatus. And I had started collecting photos of apparatus when I was about 10 years old.
Wow.
So, yeah. No, not that old, They weren't steamers,
Yeah. What was the largest fire you ever remember recording or filming?
Well, there was the Meridian fire, which was 12 alarms. And that was back on February 23rd of 1991. And I also photographed it was vacant dye works, Sterling Dye Works at 3rd and Ontario on It was let me see, August 26th, 1991. That went for 10 alarms. That was a pretty massive building, or a complex of buildings. And they were probably the two of the largest that I've attended. And interestingly enough, there was a 9-alarm fire on Delaware and Washington Avenue in 1965. I was 2 years old and my mother took me to that in a baby coach. I don't really remember anything about it, but I think that was probably the first job I ever attended. So maybe that's where the spark was lit, so to say. So
Where did the motivation come from taking the photos from Fireground or apparatus and publish them into a book?
you start to collect all this information, and you kind of feel like you have to do something with it. I think a lot of it reflects on the department and the members in a positive light, so if we can get that out there, it just reflects back on the good that the department's doing and so forth.
What was out of all the different apparatus that you filmed, what was your favorite?
It's hard to say. There were a lot. I liked the Max in the late 70s. The American LaFrancis, also in the late 70s, were pretty interesting. And a lot of the new stuff is kind of interesting as well. I like the new stuff, but my real fascination is with the horse-drawn apparatus. And, it's just amazing what they were able to accomplish with that type of, equipment,
So what finally inspired you to go forward and actually publish the book? This book that we're talking about is From Horses to Horsepower. Were you involved in any other books, or did you publish any other books?
Well, I was like the lead author on Hike Out. We broke it into sections, and then I had to weave all the sections. I wrote the middle section, but then I was able to weave the other two sections, and so it was, all the same writing style. That was the first book that I had done, and that commemorated the 125th anniversary of the department. Actually, book that I published 2 years ago, From Horses to Horsepower, I actually had the idea to do that in the early 90s prior to Hike Out. And, work gets in the way, family gets in the way, and, you just keep pushing it off. And finally, around 2015 or so, I decided it was time to get this done. Let's get it done and let's get it behind us, and we move on to other projects then.
So let's talk a little bit about what is actually in From Horses to Horsepower.
From Horses to Horsepower covers the apparatus history of the Philadelphia Fire Department from day one, on March 15th, 1871, till the end of 2017. So it covers roughly about 136 years or whatever of history, or of the department's history. And it covers like how the department began, how they purchased the first apparatus, issues that they had, problems that arose, how they overcame those problems, and basically how we arrived at what we have today.
Was there ever a time that the department contacted you as the historian with any history about the department, or maybe giving them some influence on projects or anything that they were working on?
There were several issues, but probably the biggest one that they ever had come to me with was when they were looking to discontinue the high pressure system. And they wanted to see like what the department was like, say 1912 versus 2001, 2002. And I actually did an analysis of companies that operated within the high pressure system, pump sizes on the engines, what the staffing was, pump sizes then compared to today, staffing then compared to today, and so forth. And I broke it all down for them. and they used it, but unfortunately they made the decision to discontinue the high pressure system. But you know, I tried. Yeah.
Well, we're quickly approaching March 15th of 2021 will be the 150th year of the department. Are you currently working on any projects with that, or is there anything that you're doing to highlight?
Yeah. We are kicking around doing an update on Hike Out, which would include 50 years after the from the original version, or not 50, I'm sorry, 25 years. And so we'll cover the first, the 150 years. Kind of starting to really get the outline together for that now and try to put it all together. And we'll see how it goes. We'll see where it goes. Should be interesting though.
That's very interesting. Where can someone that's watching this show or our members obtain this book, Horses to Horsepower?
It is only for sale in the Fireman's Hall gift shop. So they can go on to our website, firemanshallstore.com, to make a purchase. They could come to the museum in person and purchase it. And if things work out for them, I might be there and I could sign it for them as well. So only 1,000 copies were printed, and I think we're down to maybe 150 left, and there will be no reprints. So as I always say, act now or forever hold your peace.
So for our viewers watching, we got 150 books left. They go on sale for $46.80 plus tax, and come down and get your limited value of the book with the history of the department. Jack, can you elaborate a little bit about any other projects you do outside of the museum? Tell them about the apparatus magazine that you put in a tour.
I write a column in the Fire Apparatus Journal, which covers Philadelphia's apparatus. I've been doing that for probably roughly 25, 26 years now. And, covers all new deliveries. I've written several feature articles for them as well on historical type apparatus issues. I also do a blog on our Facebook page, covering company histories, fires, kind of whatever I feel like doing at that time, and we have quite a following. So, but I mean, if you're interested, check it out, and we're glad to have you on board.
Well, thank you for joining us, Jack. I appreciate it. That's a lot. It's a lot of history that's in a book here in the store. So please come down and get that. For those of you watching, we like to highlight a company each month on our show. This month's company that we're going to highlight is Engine 68. For those of you who don't know, on October 7th, the firefighter of the year will be announced, and that's firefighter Sean Dugan from Engine 68 on the sea. So thank you. So check our link below, and you'll be able to see the Engine 68 patch, which you can buy in our store. For more content, please keep viewing, comment, subscribe, and like. Leave a comment for any content you'd like to see, and also check out Freedom from Fire, that's hosted by Lieutenant Desamore. So until next time, an ounce of cure is worth a pound of prevention. See you next time on Curator's Corner.